Good morning, afternoon, evening, not really sure what time you're watching the video. For me, it's morning. So, anyways, we're going to be doing a follow-up with the whole Rogers case. There was some activity in his case. If you haven't caught the other videos, let me summarize it for you real quick so you don't have to. December 21st to December 2021 to February 2023, he called the FBI and the Speaker of the House 150 times with grievances, complaining about different things like gun rights and the Chinese balloons and wondering why nothing's going on, right? Well, they found that annoying, so they indicted him in September 2023, which is freaking wild. Literally go to Fredo trial because you're annoying to the government. Anyways, trial happened in middle of 2024. He was ultimately convicted. Appeal was filed March 2025, and then we're to where we are today. In January 9th, shortly after I shot my last video with the wife, the government answered with a reply. So the summary of the story is, dude was being really annoying, so they charged him with harassment calls and stuff like that, saying that his political speech was not covered by the First Amendment, and that's where we're basically at. And the most important thing I need you to remember is if you'd like to help support the channel directly, the best way to do that is shop at Only Tackle Fans at Shopify.com, where you can purchase cool merch like morale patches, t-shirts, MREs, hoodies, all types of great stuff. And because I'm permanently demonetized from YouTube, that is how I pay the bills right now. Alright, so back into the story. What are we looking at here? He got screwed over. He really, really did. And he will ultimately win his appeal. Unfortunately, that isn't going to get him out of prison any sooner. That's the thing that sucks about it. I mean, they already filed their appeal, or at least their notice for appeal, back in March 2025. They just got a response, 6 months later? Something like that? January, February, March? No longer than that, like 8 months later. I don't know how quickly they filed their appeal. You know, maybe that took a little bit, but the point is, it's just getting the ball rolling, and he's almost already done with his prison sentence now, which really sucks. It put a huge burden on the family. She does also have a fundraiser. I didn't have one for the last video, but I'll have that in the description down below. This is what it looks like right here. Obviously, the news classified them as terrorists, so nobody at all has helped them out at all. That's why I'm stepping in here and making videos. So as I was saying, January 9th, shortly after my last video, the government replied back saying, hey, we should definitely deny this appeal. And here's why. And I'm not going to go through section by section. I'm only going to talk about the section I personally know why he should definitely get his appeal, because the same thing happened in my case. So here's what's going on. So the judge didn't say that a speech was a true threat, right? The judge said that question belongs to the jury. And that should immediately raise red flags if you've been following my case. Because after Counterman, the courts are not allowed to skip the mental analysis anymore. Counterman requires that the courts at least prove that there's some sort of proof, kind of like in Bruin, where the government has to go back and prove that if this gun law is constitutional, it existed around the time of the founding. Well, in this particular analysis, the courts need to have it proven to them that the speech, at minimal, was at least reckless enough to where the person should have known that their speech would be interpreted as a threat. Pretty simple, right? That is the threshold. It's not perfect. It's not the best threshold, but that is the threshold that needs to happen. And in the government's request for a denial, they never once addressed that issue. Nothing about analyzing recklessness, and that would be the easiest way to use this as a vehicle to shove it through, and they didn't even go that. They didn't discuss mindset, no discussion of characteristics or anything like that that would say that this person is beyond the point of just political raged speech. And that matters. There has to be a legitimate threat, or at least enough recklessness of what they're saying that it could be construed as a threat. The court said, we'll let the jury figure it out. And that's a problem, because courts have the duty, they are the gatekeeper. They cannot put a question of law in front of the jury. Like within my case, the question of laws need to be hashed out and ironed out. This way they're not putting something in front of the jury, because if they say, hey, was this a threat or not? The jury can't decide, is this constitutional to be in front of me in the first place? Because that should have already happened. That's backwards. You can't say, let's punt it off to the jury and let them figure it out, because it's not supposed to be there yet. You're supposed to already decide if it's constitutional, and this is wild. They did the same thing in my case. What they did in my case is they said, we're not really sure if this is a machine gun. We'll let the jury figure it out. Because that question was put in front of them in the first place, they automatically assume that, yes, the government has decided this is a machine gun. So because his case went before the jury automatically assumes that what he did is illegal. The jury isn't there to decide law or interpret law or anything like that. The judge gives very specific questions before the jury even gets the rest of their questions to make it overly clear. It's worded something like, you will follow the law as I explain it. Like, that's literally what the judge says to the jury. So when the judge says, you will follow the law as I explain it, and did he illegally sell a machine gun? Well, the jury's already interpreting that as like, yes, this is an illegal machine gun. Yes, he did sell it. Or in his case, yes, this is a violent or a threat. Did he actually do it? Yes, he did. It sets the person up for failure. Remember, I hate to circle back to this, but this is extremely important. The court is supposed to be the gatekeeper. They're not supposed to allow something to go to jury trial unless it's already a fact that it's against the law. And in his case, the threshold is, was the speech at least reckless enough to where it can commonly be interpreted as a threat? They did not address that at all. They just punted it off to the jury and they're like, here, you guys take the ball. You guys handle this question. In my case, it should have went through a civil court and a judge civilly, before criminal charges are involved, determined whether this is or is not a machine gun. In his case, the judge should have been like, do any of these calls at least become reckless enough to where it could reasonably be interpreted as a threat? Because they didn't address that, this is why he's going to for sure win his appeal. Now, I mean, I shouldn't say for sure, because Tate should have definitely won his appeal, but this is why legally, like if it goes to SCOTUS, he's most likely going to win, because Counterman specifically says this has to be addressed, because if it isn't, anytime there's any sort of political protest, should anybody say they feel threatened, well, now it becomes criminal. And that's terrible. You can't just arbitrarily label speech you don't like as a threat. You have to have proof. And again, in Counterman, the threshold is, was it at least reckless enough to be interpreted as a threat? Now, where is he at? Well, the problem is appeals usually take about 2 years. Sometimes about 1.5 years, but usually about 2 years. So if they just responded back January 9th, he's not looking at getting an answer till probably January 2026, which means he's going to wind up sitting his full prison sentence. Now, he should have definitely qualified for 821 and got out, but unfortunately, 821, they screwed that up. With 821, the Sentencing Commission's like, hey, judges, you're over-sentencing everyone. You need to drop everybody by at least 2 points to at least bring them into the ballpark, unless there's a couple of factors, machine gun charges, basically giving the judge discretion. Any sentencing judge, if they don't automatically give you the 821, they're not going to. And it's just not the way it's going to happen unless you've been sitting long enough to where you were sitting and now 821 came out. So he's definitely going to apply for the 821, and he definitely should get it, and it definitely should bring him home. But the problem is it goes back in front of the sentencing judge, and they use their discretion. And he's probably going to get denied, just like I did. I qualified. I checked. I definitely qualified, but I got denied because, I mean, let's be real, because I didn't cooperate with the government. The only people that get 821s and stuff like that are snitches. So anyway, that's where they're at. If you'd like to help support them, if you're a creator, cover this story. I'm the only one that's covering it right now. It'd be really great to see other people cover this, because it needs to be brought out there. There needs to be awareness, because we're always protesting, especially on YouTube. And if he can be convicted for just calling the FBI too much and calling the Speaker of the House too much, us making YouTube videos could definitely get us convicted should his case get some sort of case law, or leaving angry comments in the comment section. Do you really want to go to prison for that? No. So if you're a creator, cover this story. If you just want to support the family a little bit, like I said, they have a fundraiser. Otherwise, you know, if you know an attorney or you have some legal advice, feel free to write them. The letters coming in to me when I was in prison, those were a game changer. Just knowing that people are on the outside and actually care about what's going on makes a world of difference with sitting your time. If I went to got any letters while I was in, it would have been a struggle. Like, getting the letters and knowing that I'm there for a purpose makes it so much easier. Anyways, appreciate you guys watching the video. If you'd like to help support the channel, best way to do that is shop at the Amazon affiliate links in the description down below. Just by clicking on those links, even if you don't buy what the link is for, just clicking on it doing the Amazon shopping you're already going to do anyway, a kickback for it because you came there off my channel. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.